Big day in the planer rebuild today. Today I'm going to be installing the Shelix Cutterhead. It should be a pretty easy install. Everything kind of hinges on how this bearing goes into its seat right here. And I think it's going to go smoothly, but I've thought that of a few things. If you watched the last video, just about everything that could go wrong went wrong with that, and it actually took like 10 days to make that video. I lost the bearing and had to order bearings. Then those came and I cut the spring in half. This is still the remnant of that spring. Went to town, got this spring, two of these, too big, and it ended up being that one there. But while I was waiting for these springs to come, I was admitted to the hospital, and I was in the hospital for 5 days. So first part of this went terribly wrong. I'm hoping this is a real nice short video and we get this Shelix Cutterhead installed today. First thing I'm going to do is fill this with oil. If it leaks like it did last time, then I don't want to have this thing installed and have to pull it back out to mess with a leak. Just trimming down a little bit of Teflon tape. We'll put that on the drain plug. All right, I need 20 ounces. This is how much I lost last time, so I just have to squirt it in there till it's down to that line, and I should be good to go. Should tilt this a little bit. Come on. Double check. Got a ways to go. Okay, just a tiny little squirt. And I don't think it has to be that exact, but might as well get it exact. I'm not going to need Teflon tape on this because the normal level is below this. All right. Give it a few minutes and see if we got any leaks. All right, it's been about 15 minutes and we are bone dry. The seals are dry. This is dry, this is dry. There's a little seal on this shaft here. No leaks. So now it's time to get this into the machine. We have to take these out, and it can leak oil through these, but I didn't want to wait to get it into the machine, like I said, and then have to take it back out again. Because when I did it with the original Cutterhead, it basically destroyed the bearing. I'm hoping to get this in here nice and smoothly, and what my plan is to get some 2x material on the planer bed and then raise this up, put the Cutterhead in here, and then lower it down, or lower the top down, until the Cutterhead, or until that bearing is lined up with the hole as perfect as it's going to get, and then we're going to start gently tapping it from the other side and hopefully get that bearing seated. I could rig something up with the end of the Cutterhead. That is threaded, so I could put something on there and rig it up with one of the gear pullers, use the bigger one. I believe I could get something set up, but I wouldn't be able to do it today to pull that into the hole. But we're going to start by just tapping it in. That's how almost everybody else does it. So that's my plan, and we'll start it off by getting a little bit of oil on the bearing and that opening there. Don't take a whole lot of oil. Very little bit, actually. Add a little bit on here. Now we'll get those wood blocks in place and get started on this. I am insanely nervous as to how this is going to go. Okay, this bearing was installed at the factory, and that's not quite on. But if you look down these holes, you're not going to be able to see that. I can just barely see it. But the bolt holes on the gear case here are about half the hole too far in. So this has to come back out, half of that bolt diameter. So I got to tap it back this way. And that's probably gonna move that bearing a little bit. As long as the bearing is actually sitting in there, it should be just fine. Whether it's fully into this hole or not. But you gotta have this bolted down. So we're gonna have to tap this backwards and get those bolts in there. A little bit more. Smidge more. I think that got it. Okay, that one is started. The rest of these should be lined up, but yeah, it feels like that one's tight. I may have to tap it a little bit. That one's going in just fine. And again, that one's tight, so little tiny tap. There we go. Perfect. All right. This bearing is flush with the inside. So the bearing's supported all the way, which is a good thing. I'm just going to put this on there temporarily so I can spin the shaft. The other side is a sprocket. I'll get these out of there. Oh, beautiful. Get some oil on the gears in the gearbox there. Beautiful. Yeah, that went a lot smoother than I thought it was going to. The key to taking these cutter heads out or putting them back in is to have it straight while you're doing it. And I messed up the top doing the same thing. And I know better, but for some reason I did it anyways. With this, any lower or much lower than the top here, it's at an angle and you're trying to pull it out of there, and it just makes everything a lot harder. Having this up as high as it goes, it's not going to go all the way up, but it'll get close to it. Everything goes a lot smoother. So we'll take this off and wait for a little bit with that. So now I still have some tests to do. I have to see if the cutter head is parallel to the table, and I'm not going to show that. If it's not, I got to tip it on its side and mess with that chain. I have a good amount of that in a different video, but then this gets lifted up onto the mobile base. What you do is put two 2x4s in it and then lower it down until it's pinching them, and then you get two people and lift it up and set it onto the base. This weighs, oh, it's probably real close to 325 pounds as it is. That cutter head with the gearbox on it, really heavy. Yeah, I am so glad that something went right for a while. The rest of this stuff is going to go on fairly quick until we get to the motor, and that shouldn't take too gosh awful long. I just got to put it back together, a few screws and stuff, but I got to make this box, and that's a little bit of cutting of aluminum. I got to cut the front out for the switch way over here. I always like to have a paddle on all of the tools if possible. So I'm going to put this switch on there, and it's possible, if it works out correctly, oh, where is that? I have the digital height right here. I have the digital height adjuster for this. If I can get the readout built into this as well, I may do that if I can put it like right here. But the only problem with that is then that would be facing the front, and in use, I'll be on the side of the machine when I'm operating it. I don't know. We'll make that decision later. Maybe I'll put a little bracket right here, tap this out, and put a little angled bracket. We'll figure something out that works real well. And one last thing. Oh, I don't know if I should do it yet. This thing was getting stripped out. This is the shifter knob. Goes on here. I looked everywhere for a stainless steel one that had this metric thread. Could not find it, but this thread, I forget what the heck it is almost identical to its SAE counterpart. So I got the SAE counterpart, and it fits, but it's going to be kind of loose, not really even kind of loose. It'll fit pretty tight. But what I'm going to do is put some Teflon tape on there, put like 4 wraps, and tighten this up. I never use this anyways, but I wanted something that looked a lot cooler than that piece of plastic. So let's get that done real quick, and then we'll call this video done, and we'll come back and start all the adjustments. I got to adjust the chip breaker, and I'll show you what I did with the cutter head. I'm going to do that off screen. We'll adjust the feed rollers, in feed, out feed, and bed rollers. And after that, it's just putting stuff on. And we can probably get all of that done in one day, and then we'll be at the point where we got to make the switch. Then we can turn it on. And that is 4 wraps of the Blue Monster. Yeah, make sure you subscribe. The subscriptions have kind of dropped off, and I'm trying to get to 1,000 before spring. Hopefully that happens. I think I'm going to cut that little bit off, but we're not going to do it today. That's on there solid. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, today went so much smoother than I thought it was going to. So I'm going to leave this down here overnight just to see if we get any drips out of the gear case here, the transmission. And then, like I said, tomorrow, first thing, I'm going to come out here and see if I can get rid of that little click. Actually, I don't think, no, that's going to be fine. So tomorrow, I just got to check the cutter head to see if it's parallel with the table. It should be, and if it is, then we'll go right on to the next video and we'll get everything adjusted, and yeah, things are coming along real smoothly now. So make sure you subscribe and click on the little bell and click all updates, and then you'll be notified when the next video comes out. Hopefully it won't be like the last one and take 10 days, but I think we're done with those days.